All right, this is a meta video. How do you edit your TikToks, your YouTube shorts, the Twitter videos, all that stuff? So I'm going to show how I do it. So this is one I just recorded. The first thing I do is I kind of make my windows as skinny as I can without editing the code. I also try to make the code examples as short as possible so that they don't wrap onto lines and whatnot. I also have a VS Code. Let's see if I can do that here. Let's see. Z hot. There we go. And let's open up some code here. Here we go. You see how this code has no sidebar and whatnot, and then this has a lot more. I have custom VS Code settings for my tips that just takes all the cruft out of it, because at least I find it very overwhelming to watch people with all the crap on their page when we don't necessarily have to do that. So I have a custom VS Code setting that I use, and has lots of padding so that I can easily crop it. I'm not doing that here because this is a console tip, but kind of all the same. Then what I'll do is, if I have two windows that I need to be going back and forth between, or showing them both at the same time, like a browser and your editor, what I'll do is I'll just immediately, before I cut anything, is I'll duplicate that actual track, and then I'll rename them. So this one is going to be the browser, and this one is going to be the console, or like the editor. And then I'll start to crop them. So let's crop the browser first. So go here, here, up, and down. It's pretty good. Now I'm going to crop the console. I can see if I do that. I'll usually overcrop, and I'll show you why in just a sec. Also, sometimes I won't include the like browser URL stuff here. I think in this case I might. We'll see. Okay, so those are my two windows here. Then I will see, that one is, I need to do a little closer crop on that one. Okay, good. Next, what I'll do is I will take some settings here. I have one called rounded corners and drop shadow, and that does exactly what it says it does. And then I also add that to my video. Okay, so now I have my 3 pieces of content here. Then we start cropping it. So I go 1080 by 1920. And then I will go, I have this like little art folder here. This has all my, if I want to, I have thumbnails or whatever, pictures of me, Bonzi Buddy, all that kind of handy stuff. Because if I want to drag something into here very quickly, I can just grab it right from here. And then also, if I'm in the browser and I need to save something, I just drag it into there without having to right click, save, find the folder, all that BS. So I usually take like a gradient background here. It depends on every single one. And then I'll turn it and just make it. I also edit it at 1440, and I'll show you that at the end. So that looks pretty good. I also have this grit that I add to a lot of them. White grit. There's one called, there we go, black grit. So I'll have to make my own. Stretch this across. Bring that up. And then turn it around. Scale it up. There we go. Okay, that's starting to look good. Okay, so then I'll have to make this. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I'll do is I have this TikTok layover that will help me with my cropping zones. So put that into its own layer, move it all the way up. I should say, like, I'm using ScreenFlow here. I don't love it, but I've been looking at using, what's it called, Descript, which allows you to edit it based on text. That seems pretty nice. But I'm in a flow right now. I don't have time to relearn or switch something right now. So probably at some point I will do that. So this is just my like little crop line. I try to keep everything inside of this area ish. Then I'll put myself down here or at the top, depending on the video. I've just been playing with it here and there, so that looks pretty good. And then I'll take this off because I don't like it, but I have it there. Then I'll start to edit it and just put things where I need them to go. Actually, this console here needs to be resized. Big enough. Okay, that looks good. Oops, I moved myself. All right, there we go. Let's start editing. If you fiddle around in your JavaScript console a lot, these are a couple of handy tools you can use. $$ is shortcut for document.querySelector all, and $$ is shortcut for document.querySelector. This is really handy because they wrap it in array.from, and you can. This is really handy because they. All right, so there's my first restart. So I'll generally, when I do restarts like this, I'll give myself a little pause, and that allows me to see via the wavelength. Oh, by the way, this is like a good trick. Change it to like pink because it's so much easier to see the waveforms. So cut it there. Oh, I select everything that's in there. I cut it. Okay, and then we go to where I start to say this is handy. Query selector. This is really handy because they wrap. Okay, so this is really handy. Query selector. This is one thing I like about Descript is that like I don't have to find exactly where I stop saying the word because you just select the word in the editor. It's pretty cool. All right, so that's where I have it. Cut it. I'm going to delete that. And then I have all these, like, this is one annoying thing I don't like about ScreenFlow is I have to click every single one. And like, sometimes they don't click. There's a lot of things I don't like about ScreenFlow. And like, I'm not going to learn another video editing program because I'm pretty sure Descript will be it. So don't tell me to learn DaVinci or something like that. This is really handy because they wrap it in array.from. And what you can do is use regular JavaScript array methods on it because by default, query selector gives you a node list. Similarly, if you are selecting elements on the page, let's say I select. Okay, so here is where I need to bring in my browser. If you are selecting elements on, so selecting elements on the page. If you are selecting, so I'm going to grab that and add a action, and that is yellow. So then I bring in my browser here. Okay, and then we try watch this. Elements on the page. Let's say I select this H2 here. Okay. And then, I click on the span right here, and then I click on the outline. If I go back to my elements panel. Oh, so this is where I goof up. Go back to my console. So first, I'm going to put a snapback option on here to hide the browser. So go to the browser, actions, video, snapback, and that will. If I go back to my brings it back out. Okay. Then I need to cut. The reason I did that first before I cut is you can't add a snapback after you cut. On the outline, if I go back to my elements panel, I click on the span right here, and then I click on the outline. So outline. And then I believe, let's see how that looks. Line. If I go back to my console here. Oh, so this, I cut it too close or something. I go back to my see it's something's this is I don't like ScreenFlow. It's something's if I cut it, then I lose my snapback. So that's okay. I'll just manually do it. Let's see here. The outline. If I go back to my the outline. Okay, so cut there. Okay. And cut that out. Okay. If I go back to my console here. So I go back to my console here. So I'm going to grab the browser, add an action, yeet it out of the way. If I go back to my console here, if I use $0, using $0 will give me the last thing I clicked. $1 is the second last thing. Okay, so that I really got to like look at time here because I gotta be under a minute for YouTube. So what I'm saying here is I think I could cut that out. That's too much. If I go back to my console here, if I use $0, using $0 will give. So like I think I can get rid of all of this. Using $0 will give me the last thing I clicked. $1 is the second last thing I clicked. $2, third last thing, etc., etc. I believe it goes up to 4 or 5. So I can just 4. I believe it goes up to 4. That's fine. It's unreal. Trying to get it under a minute for YouTube. You just every word that you say, you're like, I probably shouldn't have said that word. That's a half a second there. And look at, we're trying to trying to get under 6 more seconds. I got to cut out. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Or final one, if you are running something like 1 + 1. Finally, if you run something in the
Okay, that's a good chunk.
final one.
Cut that.
Finally, if you run something in the console, you're like, oh, I need that result in a variable. You can use $_ and that will give it to you, and you can pass that to.
All right, so here I'm thinking this is a bit small.
Finally,
so I'm going to scale that up. Let's go to the console, add an action. All right.
Finally, if you run something in the console, you're like, oh, I need that result in a variable. You can use $.
Another thing I do is I always hit L because I'm watching the playback in 2x just so I can get through it faster, and then I slow it down if I notice something.
Up to 4. Or finally, if you run something in the console, you're like, oh, I need that result in a variable. You can use $_ and that will give it to you, and you can pass that to other functions.
You can pass that to.
And you can pass that to other functions. And you can pass it to other functions like. And you can pass that to other functions.
Yeah, so that's the good take there. So I got to find where I started.
We'll give it to you, and you can pass it to you, and that will give it to you.
Okay. Come on.
And that will give it to you. And you can pass that to other functions like alert. Cool tips.
Okay, good. So we're well under a minute now. Probably could put that 4 or 5 second one back in, but I think we're okay. Okay, so that's where it's at. That one is pretty simple. There wasn't a whole lot of booping around and whatnot. And then sometimes I'll do like,
if you fiddle around in your JavaScript console a lot.
So like if you fiddle around in your JavaScript console a lot, like that first kind of couple seconds, you maybe want to put like a Chrome and a Firefox and an Edge logo in there. See, this is also freaking like you want to add a video, so it just like pushes them down so they're no longer lined up. I know there's like lock groups, but that doesn't. Then there's other ones. So usually what I end up doing is I just go to the bottom here and make a new one, and this is bigger. So scooch this up. Really, I think that I can just delete this entire track here now that I know it's safe. So
if you fiddle,
actually, another thing I do is if I'm like, okay, well, I like the size of this. What I'll do is I'll just copy it, Command C, and then I'll just paste. It's up here. I have the screen. I have the shortcut for it, but you do paste properties video. And that will just resize the logo to be the same size. Oh, it's a little bit smaller, but you get the point, right? That's really handy as if I, like, let's say right here, this video, I'm like, okay, well, I actually want the video right here. But then I already cut it, so this one's down here. So you can do is copy it and then paste the property, and then you could do it on all of them. And it will move them all to the exact same spot. That works with cropping and every property, which is really good. So let's bring that back. Okay. So what we're doing here, we got these things here. So I'll add an action and probably scale those suckers up. The Firefox one, add an action, scale it up. Edge, add an action, move it up, and then we'll just kind of see what it does.
If you fiddle around,
there we go. That's good. And then I'll just trim the ends of those off. That is it. So I'll export it, go into my ready tips, and then you click on the 100% resolution. I usually go slowest, and I don't have any on my courses. I have custom settings, but here I don't have any custom settings. Letterbox doesn't matter here because it's going to be 100%. I go ahead and export that. All right, that is done editing. Then I will simply just change this one to either 1920, which gives me a full square, or 1440. And those are the ones that I upload to LinkedIn or Twitter, because Twitter crops the 1080 by 1920. So I'll just do a little bit of work here to size that up. And see now this is a good example of now that background is cropped on the rest of them. So just copy it and paste the settings on that video across the rest of them. And then I'll usually just like sometimes I'll take advantage of the extra space. So if you fiddle around in your JavaScript console a lot, these are so you have a lot more room in the console here. So I might make it look a little bit bigger and paste that on. There's one of them where I scale it up. Yeah, it's right here. So I'm not going to do it on all of them, but let's see where we're at.
Dollar is shortcut for document.query selector all, and dollar is shortcut for document.query selector. This is really handy because they wrap it in array.from, and what you can do is use regular JavaScript array methods on it because by default query selector gives you a node list. Similarly, if you are selecting elements on the page, let's say.
All right, so here I think that's fine.
Select this H2 here, and then I click on the span right here, and then I click on the outline. Using $0 will give me the last thing I clicked.
This is already scaled up.
This is the second last thing I clicked. $2, third last thing, etc., etc. I believe it goes up to 4. Or finally, if you run something.
All right, so here this one is a little bit weird.
Finally,
I want the scale up, so I'm going to click on the action, and I want the action to make it looks like this. So that looks kind of cool. So let's see.
Finally, if you run something
Yeah,
in the
looks
console, you're like, oh, I need that result in a variable. You can use $_, and that will give it to you. And you can pass that to other functions like.
Okay, so see how that just jumped from there. So I'll grab this one, paste the video properties on that one, and now
that will give it to you. And you can pass it.
That didn't work. Let's try it again. Copy, paste the video prop. What's going on here? Why is that not working? Copy, paste video properties. Oh, maybe I have to copy it from the action. I bet that's it. Yeah, there we go. So I had to click on the little purple thing there.
And you can pass it to other functions like alert, cool tips.
All right, that's it. And then I'll give it an export. Again, go for the 100% of the original, and then I'll just add a -wide to the name here and give it an export. And that's it. Hopefully that helps.